You are listening to Beyond the Wheel, a podcast about the people and ideas that drive the RV community forward.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com. Hey everybody, welcome to another Driver's Edition. And if you're listening to us as this episode is first premiering, it's Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hopefully you are enjoying a drive to some family members or you're already there and eating some turkey. On today's episode, we got a couple fun things to talk about. Sean and I recently took a Walt Disney World trip and stayed at the Fort Wilderness Campground. Sean has a rental experience to share with you guys, and I have an off-road park that I found that I'm going to share with you guys. And then, of course, we got some interesting news as well. So let's just hop right into this episode here. Sean, it's good to see you.
Yeah, Kenny, it's good to see you as well. I know we just spent a little over a week together down there in Disney, which is always a good time. Seems like we've done it. That was our third time?
At least.
Yeah, third or fourth time meeting down there.
Yeah. It's my favorite campground, and I say to Sabrina all the time, it's great when we're able to experience, I just call it the fort. You know, it's great to experience the fort with friends. I think you thanked us at the end of the trip. You're like, oh, thanks for letting us, invade your vacation. But I mean, I feel like it's our vacation. I feel like we planned this so that you guys are down there with us at the same time. It's always a good time to see you guys.
And what's funny about this trip, Kenny, is that Fort Wilderness is huge, and we were like 3 spots away from each other.
It's unbelievable.
First time that's happened.
Yeah, because actually, when you guys left, another set of friends came in, and I don't think they could have been any further from us. You know, we were like in loop 300, and they were in loop 2000. So it is odd, honestly odd, that you were in the same exact loop as us. I thought that was really cool, though, that we could see you, and that helps me because I get to see Toby a little bit more that way too. Before the pups go off to the doggy daycare, the best friend's daycare.
Yeah. The bad thing about Disney is this is the second time in a row that I've been there and gotten sick. So 2 years ago I got RSV, and then this time I got COVID. So
yeah, and I do have that on my list. I said we'll talk about the good and the bad of that Walt Disney World trip. Yeah, you got sick. Sabrina got sick on this on that trip. Julie got sick. You guys both got sick though, like the day Julie got sick as you guys were leaving, right? The day of, right, and then you got sick once you got home, I think.
Once we got home, yep.
Sabrina was sick while you guys were still there. So I say Sabrina got you guys sick, but she says no.
You were the only one that got away unscathed.
I got yeah. And that's just I'm sorry that you guys got sick, but I do not like being sick. So I'm okay with not getting sick. I did not want to join in your fun.
I have to say though, Kenny, I've never been a fan of bathhouses. And we'll talk about the rental in a minute, but the bathhouses at Disney are so clean all the time. I used it every day. And I told Julie, like, you never see any cleaning people, but it's always spotless in there.
It's like magic.
Yeah.
It just goes somehow at some point in the night, they must be cleaning up. And I have no idea. It's got to be in the middle of the night. It's got to be, because I agree with you. I never see anybody in there cleaning, but it's always spotless. So it's got to be more than just in the middle of the night. Yeah, I used the bathhouse a couple times when our niece was staying with us, just to give her a little bit of privacy in the RV. I was like, I don't necessarily need the privacy, but this gives her a chance if she wants to get ready without me being in the RV. So I would use the bathhouses a couple times. And a couple years ago, we had borrowed an RV, and we were having issues with the plumbing, so I was using the bathhouses a lot then, and even that was probably like 5 years ago, and it was just as clean then too. It's crazy just how consistent they are on taking care of the entire property. I mean, we were down there just a couple weeks after that hurricane. You would never even know a hurricane hit them. I mean, they're out there just cleaning up constantly. We actually stayed for long enough that our site, I don't know if I told you this or not, but our site was getting all the leaves falling, and the branches and stuff like that were falling all around our RV, and it was looking like we were, I don't know, deadbeat campers, I'll say, because our site looked worse than everybody else. And I went out with a broom and I tried to sweep it, and it was taking forever. And I saw one of those employees with the leaf blower, and I said, "Hey, would it be okay if I borrowed that, or could you come over and just like kind of clean up our site a little bit? We've been here long enough that our site looks worse than everybody else's." And he was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry about that." I was like, "No, no, no, no." I said, "It's my fault." I said, "It's not your fault." And he's like, "Well," he said, we're not allowed to leaf blow around somebody's RV, so I haven't been hitting it's only for when people check out and check in." And he's like, and I was like, "No, I understand. I'm not mad or upset that it's." I said, "This is my fault that it looks this bad. I try to keep it clean, and I can't. But I figure if you just used your leaf blower, you can clean it up real quick for us." He's like, "Absolutely." And he stopped what he was doing and came right to our site, cleaned it all up for us. He had it cleaned up in like 5 minutes with that, and then apologized again.
A couple things that I really like about Fort Wilderness is number one, the Wi-Fi there is incredible. I don't know what they do, but I never had to get on my hotspot once. I always used the campground Wi-Fi, and I was working half days while we were there and never had an issue with the Wi-Fi there. And then the other thing I like about going, particularly at this time of year, is that Julie spends a lot of time just walking around because of all the decorations that people put up, either Thanksgiving or people were starting to put up Christmas stuff there. And it's incredible the amount of money people spend on these decorations.
I've been down there sometimes for Halloween, and people show up with like shipping, like the small shipping containers, and they'll unload everything, and then I guess a company comes in and removes that shipping container for them. That's how many decorations that some of these people will spend on setting up. Yeah, I just enjoy the fort as far as like all the amenities they have. Transportation is easy. I really like being able to take the boat to the Magic Kingdom and back. We can take a boat over to the Fort Wilderness Lodge as well. And while we were there, they are building a new section of that campground. So I'm curious to see what that comes out. It's going to be called Reflections, but they're building a 10-story building that's going to be on the campground property. And I know in the Facebook groups, people are very upset about having I'll put in quotes, like a hotel structure on the campground property. They're afraid that it's going to affect the feel of the campground, that it won't have this out in the middle of nowhere type of feeling. And to be honest, they're probably right. So I'm curious to see that this is supposed to be done for another 3 years. Like, how much will it affect the flow and the feeling of the campground having a 10-story? I'm gonna say it's a hotel, even though it's on the campground property. It's a hotel on the campground property. So we'll see what that looks like when it's all done, aesthetic wise, and just how it affects the feel of the campground.
And also the another thing that I like that I don't think people say enough because they forget about it is the check-in process is so smooth there. Like you don't get out of your RV. It's so smooth. And I really like that. It's seamless. They got it
Seamless.
down. Yeah.
Yeah, seamless is a good word for it. Yeah, I've always appreciated that too. You almost pull up to like almost like a toll booth,
Yeah.
and they take all your information right there, right from the window. Like you said, you never even have to get out of the RV. It's crazy. It's great. You start your vacation immediately once you're on property because you're already feeling like they're taking care of you. Yeah, it was a great trip, and you this year added an extra level to your trip by having a rental.
Yeah, when we were at the Hershey RV show with you actually, Julie really liked the Winnebago Vita, but we weren't sure how we would like being in something that size. So we looked at rentals, and I think we've talked about rentals in the last driver's edition about some of the pains of rentals, like the expensive insurance and things like that. But we found a very similar layout in an RV called a Thor Majestic, which is a Thor Majestic 23A, I think is the RV we had. And we rented it through Cruise America. And so it was relatively inexpensive. I think for the whole week, it ended up costing us about $1,100. But that was after some discounts that they gave us because of some of the issues with the RV. But as far as using it as far as the space goes, that was the whole reason why we rented it. And we were very comfortable inside of an RV that size, which without renting it, we wouldn't have known. And who knows if we would have went and bought one and then said, oh, this is way too cramped for us. But being in it for that week was very helpful in actually seeing how we would use the space and how comfortable it was. And we both really liked the size. And Toby didn't, we thought maybe Toby would get in the way, but he found his little spots and he was fine too. So it was a really good experience as far as using it to determine how we would like something much smaller than what we have now. But one caution I will give people, like when you go to rent an RV, make sure you check everything while you're still there, because we got to Fort Wilderness and found that only one set of our outlets worked, and they have a 1-800 number that you can call and get like tech support, and they were saying that it was a GFCI issue and we couldn't find the GFCI. And then the other issue we had was that the water heater wouldn't turn on. It was only a propane water heater, and you could hear it trying to ignite, but it wouldn't ignite, which is something I could fix easily if I could take the cover off. But they had the cover like screwed down with these special screws that I didn't have a bit for. I would have had it if we were in our RV, but since we were renting, we didn't bring any of that stuff. And so we ended up, like I said, using the bathhouse, which was no problem at all. We had a portable generator / car starter / everything else in Julie's car that she uses because she's out in the country road so much that if she has a problem, she can use that. And so we just used that for our extra outlets, and it worked fine. So overall, we were happy with the experience, but I would caution people to check everything before you leave to make sure it's working right. But once we said, they said you can bring it back and get a different one that is working right. But by then we were already enjoying our time at Disney, and we didn't want to waste half a day driving back to the location to get a new one. So we just stuck it out by using the bathhouse and a workaround for the electricity. But other than that, I think renting was a very good peace of mind experience for us, knowing that we could really enjoy an RV of that size.
And you said that the driving experience, you thought it was more comfortable to drive than what you were expecting.
Yeah, it was more comfortable, easier to drive than the truck and the fifth wheel towing, even, which isn't that bad. And especially when it comes to maneuvering something that small, it was super easy. We're kind of the opposite, I think, of most people in that we started in a 44-foot and now we're slowly getting smaller. And I think we'll go down to like a Vita size next year.
Yeah, that size RV that you guys rented was perfect for Walt Disney World's at Fort Wilderness Campground, because the sites are enormous, but the road that you back out of into is narrow. So I know for me, even in a 28-foot motorhome, I always feel like it's a pretty snug, especially depending on where you are along the curve of your
And
loop.
how many people in front of you have decorations that are
That's
creeping out
right.
into the road?
Yeah. So I would imagine you backing in. So you said it was a 23A, Sean. Is that 24, 25 feet? Something where.
Yeah, 24 something, I think.
So was it easy to back into that site on the curved loop?
Oh, it was simple, even without, I mean, nothing fancy, no backup camera or anything like that. And
Oh,
I did it no problem, like no guide or anything, just backed right in.
okay. And when you say you had it for a week, you guys had it for like 7, 8 days, right? It wasn't like a Monday through Friday thing.
It was Saturday to Saturday.
Yeah, so for $1,100, I think that is actually a really good price and gives you an idea like, oh, will this work? That's that's money well spent to find out if something's going to work for you.
Yeah, I think so, especially if we wouldn't have liked it.
Yeah,
That's way better than $100,000.
that's right.
Yeah.
That that you'll never, make back in a trade or selling and trying to purchase again. And I
Yeah, I
think
think it's a really smart idea to do that. Just even if it's just for a few days. I mean, it was nice to have it as long as we did because then we really got to experience, as much as we would experience in an RV of our own. So
it was a great idea. And I think, that GFI, they told you that GFI, I remember coming in and trying to look for a GFI too. I think at one point somebody must have removed that GFI and put a regular outlet in its place because we
yeah,
couldn't find a GFI anywhere in this coach. So
yeah, I
I'm
even
curious.
looked in the underneath storage bays everywhere.
Everywhere.
Couldn't find it.
It's funny too that they use those screws and stuff to keep people out. I guess one, they're afraid that you'd cause more damage, or I guess it makes sense that they would keep you out of certain areas of the coach. I don't know. So you would recommend the renting experience? I would too. Sabrina and I rented an RV before we purchased our RV. Of course, this was 8, 9 years ago, but that's what convinced us that our Class A motorhome was going to be a good fit for us. And absolutely have to echo what Sean said. Walk through the RV, because when Sabrina and I rented that Class A, one, we knew nothing about RVs really. We had just got started shopping and getting a feel for the RV life. But two, we were just so excited to get in it and go that, they did a walkthrough tour. We didn't test anything. And then when we showed up at the campground, the jacks didn't work, exhaust fans didn't work. The shower leaked. Every time we took a shower, water would run out from underneath it. So take your time, turn everything on. Like, yeah, do a thorough walkthrough. Give yourself the time to do a walkthrough. Know that that's going to be part of your pickup experience, is that walkthrough.
Yeah, otherwise it was a very smooth experience too. And yeah, definitely, even if like we've been RVing since 2014, so 10 years now, and not every RV is the same. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're interested in getting something new or changing, then I would definitely encourage renting just to get that feel of it.
And I was surprised when I walked in that rental that you had at 24, 25 feet, just how much space you had in there, because you didn't have a slide, right? Yours, no slide.
This one didn't have a slide.
Yeah. I was impressed with the amount of space and comfort that it had, or use of space, just how the layout worked. So, yeah, I think it's kind of like in that sweet spot size. It's a little bigger than a van, but smaller than a traditional C or A. So you're going to get that maneuverability, but you'll still be very comfortable inside.
Yeah, a couple things we noticed that we have never experienced before, but like you have, Kenny, is that how much heat comes through that front window,
Mm-hmm.
and the noise. There's some different noises that they make when you're driving down the road that you
You,
don't hear otherwise. So
yeah, all these years that you've been towing, Sean, you haven't had the pleasure of listening to everything rattle in the cabinets.
yeah,
But over time, that's things that you can kind of work out. Like Sabrina and I use a lot of silicone pads down below. We put pot holders in between every pot and pan to stop rattling. You over time, I have an issue with squeaks and rattles and stuff like that. So I'm a little OCD when it comes to this stuff. So Sabrina kind of doesn't get bothered by it as much as I do. So I'm always like, where's that little noise coming from? And then I try to work something out to quiet it down a little bit.
and then after you left Disney, Kenny, you went to a unique kind of RV place.
Yeah, they don't. I guess they don't market themselves as a RV park just yet. But I went to a place called Gulch's Off-Road Park, or Gulch's, I guess, OHV Park. But they had RV spots there. And normally to go to like this off-road park, it's made for like Jeeps and trucks and buggies and stuff like that. They had a couple RV sites with water and electric, and then they have a couple primitive sites down in the trail itself. I thought it was really cool. So normally it would be $25 a day to take your, we'll say Jeep because that's what I have. It would have been $25 a day for me to ride my Jeep in their trails. And they offered a deal where if you stayed on property and stayed in one of their RV sites, it was $100 for the whole weekend for the 3 days. And we got water and electric included. And it included our trail pass. So, I mean, I thought that was a steal for me to be able to ride all weekend in my Jeep. So every morning I wake up and I get right on the trail. So I got on the trails Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's not a campground. But talking with the owners as I was checking out and leaving, they were talking about expanding. They already have the area expanded actually, and they're going to add two or an extra row of RV sites. So eventually, it sounded to me that they were going to kind of build an RV park right on their property and offer this to more people. Because at the moment, I don't think they had more than 4 sites. And it sounds like they're expanding to about maybe 15 sites where you'll be able to camp right on property and take advantage of the trails. And they took really good care of the trails. I thought the trails were a lot of fun. They had 5 levels of trails from easy, intermediate, difficult, extra difficult to crossbones or something like that. If you off road, you'll know like by having so many different levels like that, it gives you an opportunity to try maybe something that you wouldn't normally do because the increments from each level are not such a great leap. So, you could go from easy to intermediate, and intermediate was just a little bit harder than easy instead of like a big step up where it was like, oh no, now I'm on this intermediate and I don't know how to get out of here type of thing.
And this was in South Carolina, right?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, South Carolina, just outside of Greenville, South Carolina, about an hour from Greenville, South Carolina. As far as I could tell, it was only open on weekends. So you'll want to plan accordingly that you can only ride the trails on weekends and you can only camp there on weekends. Also, I'll say that you're going to meet a lot of nice people. The owners were super nice. I spoke to 3 out of the 4 owners. It's a family business. They've owned it for 5 years. The kids wanted to purchase the camp, or I keep calling it a campground because I camped there, but the kids wanted to purchase this property that was already established as an off-road park, and they didn't want to do it alone, so they talked to their parents, so they went into it together. So I was able to talk to 3 out of the 4 owners. Since they've owned it, they're the ones that put the 3 or 4 sites that they have on the property. They've actually added a bathhouse with showers and sink toilet on the property, and now they're expanding and adding more campsites as well. So just know when you show up, there is no dump station. If you're planning on going out there and checking them out, make sure that your holding tanks are empty. You can get water and electric on property, but they have no dump station anywhere on property. So you just want to make sure that you're empty. There was a Flying J about 30 minutes from the campground that we went to empty our tanks, and Flying J costs like $8 to dump with your Sam's card.
Are people off-roading at all hours there?
So they have quiet hours starting at 10 p.m. So you can,
okay.
so from like 8 in the morning till 10 p.m., you can off road. I personally, once it got dark, I was done. I mean, I'm not off roading where if I don't see a cliff somewhere, because it's all, I would say almost all of it is up and down. It's pretty extreme off-road park. They had some trails and some obstacles that I looked at, and I made some new friends there that we all looked at and said, oh, I wonder, that can't be a trail because nothing would be able to make it up there. But there were people that were showing up in what I guess you would call a buggy, and it's performance built to climb walls. I mean, this thing's like straight up and down, and they had these vehicles that were able to climb these, I'm not gonna say walls. So I would not ride there at night just for fear of making a wrong turn and tumbling down a cliff. I saw people coming out of there at night. That would not be me though. I was good with just the daytime hours.
I would just think about the noise, like, if it was super late, and some of those side-by-sides are pretty loud.
Yeah, the side by sides are loud. The dirt bikes are really loud, like the two-stroke dirt bikes. They're loud and stuff like that. So yeah, it's not a place that you would go hang out for the weekend to relax because it does get noisy in and out. Surprisingly, though, it's not as loud as you would think because the where you are parked and camped, you're a good distance from the entrance of the park, even though you're still on property. But you hear them. You definitely hear them. And I thought the hours were perfect. Like, I mean, like I said, I'm not riding all the way till 10 p.m. in the dark. But I guess in the summertime when it gets dark at 9 p.m., you'll get 12 hours of riding if you wanted to be out there that long. And every day I went out, I met new people. I exchanged phone numbers with people on Saturday. I exchanged phone numbers with people on Sunday, and hopefully we'll keep in touch if we ever come through the area again. We'll be able to meet them back up there. Really, it's funny the off road community can sometimes be almost as nice as the RV community. And on Saturday, early on in the morning, I met some people in a way that I always feel like I'm holding people up. I'm in a very small 2-door, no lift, 30-inch tire Jeep. So there were two much larger Jeeps behind me. One was on 40s and one was on 35-inch tires, and both lifted. And I moved out of their way so that they could get around me, and they kind of stopped behind me. So I got out. I said, "Oh, I'm letting you guys go. I don't want to slow you down." And they're like, "Oh, you're not going to slow us down. We'll follow you." We got to talking a little bit, and we just hung out for the rest of the day. So I think it's a very friendly community. It's just more fun to ride with somebody else and chat, and you kind of get all three of us could get out of our vehicles, look at an obstacle, and say, "All right, can you make it? Do you think you can make it? Do you think you can make it?" And if all three of us agreed to make it, then we would go on it. And you would think that I would be the limiting factor, but the very first obstacle we hit, they stopped. I pulled up. I said, "What's going on?" They're like, "I don't think we should go on this obstacle because it looks slippery and pretty slick. I don't think we'll make it up to the top." And I looked at it and I was like, "I think I can make it up there." And they said, "If you make it up there, we'll follow you." And again, like I said, they're in much bigger vehicles than me, but you'd be surprised sometimes by me having 30-inch tires and kind of no lift. I don't tip very easy. So everything's kind of very stable in my Jeep. And I was able to go up there with no issues. They went up there with no issues too. And they're like, "Oh, we're glad that you made it up here." But they said, "We felt kind of tippy on it." And I said, I believe so. I bet you're right. You're about 2 feet taller than me. So me tipping is a lot different than a big off-road vehicle tipping. But yeah, we had a great time. And then the next day I went out, and this older couple, I met them first thing in the morning, and they waved me down and said, "Hey, is it all right if we follow you? We've never been to this park before. We just bought this 2 weeks ago. It was it's not a side by side. I don't know what you would call this. I mean, I guess it's a side. Maybe it is a side by side. Maybe they're considered side by sides too, but they're not the traditional looking side by sides." And this couple followed me all day. I was only going to be on that trail for an hour or two because we wanted to pack up to leave, and I wound up being out there with about 6 hours with them.
Wow.
And it was, like I said, it was just a great off-road experience. It was a great camping experience. It was super quiet at night. You wouldn't think it would be, but once 10 p.m. hit, it was silent in this park, and we slept well there. So definitely recommend Gulch's RV. No, it's not an RV park. Definitely recommend Gulch's off-road park. And extra bonus for any of you out there with a Jeep, it is a Jeep badge of honor. So I was able to get over 600 points for the weekend, which might not mean anything to most of you. And I was able to get my badge. So I'll get a new badge shipped in the mail from Gulch's. It's a rating level of difficulty from a 3 to a 9. So just keep that in mind. I would say that you'll be fine doing the easy ones, but it does start at level 3. It doesn't start at level 1 or 2. This park starts at a level 3, and the more rain that you get throughout the week, the more difficult that trail is going to be. So just keep that in mind. But I'm sure anybody, like I said, my Jeep is stock, and I had a great time. So as long as you got good tires, you'll be fine.
Sounds like fun, actually.
It was a lot of fun. Even Sabrina had a great time, and she's not really into the off-road scene, but a couple of people I met came back out to the parking lot. We hung out and chatted, and yeah, she even had a good time. She even went out for like 3 hours with me on that last day, even though she said she had no interest in going off-roading. But yeah, she had a good time too.
Wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
So RV Business put out an article, Kenny, jumping into news about California's Advanced Clean Act will ban new motorhome sales by 2025.
Yeah. And I think it's funny the way this is kind of written because I don't think it's really targeted against motorhomes per se. It was originally just vehicles that are over 8,500 pounds that are gasoline or diesel. And it just so happens that the motorhomes are typically usually in that weight class. I don't think this was something that California was like targeting for motorhomes. They were mostly targeting large trucks and things like that. And motorhomes kind of just got, unfortunately, wrapped into this. And the ban is really surprising, Sean, because they're not talking about like 2035. They're talking about January, like this January coming up, that you will not be able to buy a motorhome in California that weighs over 8,500 pounds.
And it sounds like it's because the chassis manufacturers don't make any zero emission vehicles
Correct.
on those big chassis. So that's why they're having to do this.
Yeah. After reading this, I didn't realize that this is kind of how it works for a lot of these regulations. If Honda's probably a bad example because most of their vehicles are fuel efficient. Chevy will say. So Chevy makes a V8 engine. It gets 12 miles per gallon, if that. What most of these regulations do is they also tell Chevy, well, since you make this, you also have to make a hybrid. You also have to make a four-cylinder that gets 30, 40 miles per gallon to offset the fact that you're making something that only gets 12 miles per gallon. But like Sean just said, the disadvantage to these RV manufacturers is that they're only making big block engines and a large chassis. They're not making anything else that is fuel efficient to counter their production of that big engine and low, 7, 8 mile per gallon. That's going to be difficult to be able to counter.
And then they're also banning single use propane tanks, which is funny to me, but I've always, we were chatting about this a little bit earlier. I've always, for many years now, refilled my own 1 pound bottles just by an adapter you can buy that allows you to do that. I'm not sure how safe it is, but I've never had a problem. But yeah, so that's another interesting thing but that's not until 2028.
Yeah, that's 2028. And it must be safe, Sean, because that's exactly what California is saying, that they want no single use propane tanks. So those little 1 pounders that we buy, often the green ones, and you hook it up to a propane grill or a propane fire pit, they want you to use refillable containers. Now you are refilling your green tank though, right, Sean?
Yeah, the green ones. Yeah.
I think the way California and by 2028 is saying that they want something specially made for refilling is the way that I took it. And there was like a little photo, I'll add it to the show notes. There was like a photo that they had of I think it was like a yellow, almost squared off tank that would be refillable, that you would be able to refill yourself. But yeah, they want to do away with the single use cans. And I guess that makes sense. I mean, anytime that we can reuse anything, we're going to be better than tossing it. I mean, right now, for the most part, the majority of people that use those green cans just toss them afterwards. So if we can reuse, I guess it is always better. I did want to go back to that RV ban though real quick because I found a note somewhere that California is actually in the top three of RV sales, and it surprised Sean and I. So in 2023, almost 6,000 motorhomes were shipped to California by manufacturers for sales, and Indiana was in that group, and Texas was in that group. And Sean and I both had guessed that Florida would have been the number one, or at least in the top three, because you got the Tampa show down there, and you have some major RV dealerships down there like La Mesa and who was the other one you said, Sean?
Lazy days.
Lazy Days. So we were surprised that California was in the top three for sales, RV sales. So this ban that starts in just a couple months from now, 2 months from now, is really going to affect the industry. It'll be interesting to see.
I bet, Kenny, you see some big, huge dealerships popping up along the border
Oh
of
yeah,
of California.
yeah, because there's nothing. The law doesn't say anything about owning one in California. You just won't be able to purchase it. Yeah, Sean, we should open a dealership right along the border. Yeah, you're right. I bet. Yeah, I won't be surprised by that at all. I didn't even think about that. But despite the news of that RVIA, I also got this information from RV Business. The RVIA says that October shipments worth about 30,000 for this year, and that's up 7.8% from October of last year. I know it feels to me anyway like the market is slowing down, but it seems like it's still actually making, I wouldn't even say that's a small gain. I think that's a pretty significant gain, 7.8%. But I will say it's because of the towables that are making it that 7.8% because motorized is down 20%.
Yeah, but it's interesting to me, Kenny, because and I know we don't talk politics on here, but we just ended an election that was based on people saying how bad the economy is and how everything's so expensive, but yet we're still able to purchase, an RV is not a necessity for most people.
Nope,
It's like
recreational.
a leisure recreational item. So I'm not sure how that jives with what we've been discussing over the last couple of months because of the election. So if anybody knows, let me know how that makes sense.
Yeah, I think in the past people have actually used the RV industry as a indicator of how the country is doing in general because it is recreational. It's not a necessity. If people are able to go out and spend money on fun, which is all, I mean, that's all you're really using the RV for the most part. 99% of people are using it just for fun and for recreation. Then that would show that you must have a little extra change in your pocket to be able to do this. Yeah, I agree, Sean. It seems a little odd, but I think it's funny too. Just when they say that, give you that number of that 7.8%, that the motorhomes finished are 20% down. That's just how popular, I guess, travel trailers really are. And I guess travel trailers used to be. I was going to say, travel trailers or towables are less expensive, but you know what? Being at that Hershey show, Sean, I saw some really expensive towables.
Really expensive, yeah.
80,
I think
90,
nowadays it's
110.
all the tech that's inside all of these that makes them just so expensive.
Yeah, they're not just boxes anymore, right? Once you add all this electronics and tech involved and activating things from your smartphone, they have some pretty expensive components in them that weren't in there even 3 years ago. They've making a lot of changes to them.
Then the last news item, craziness to me as well, based on the discussion about the economy, is 80 million people are traveling this week for the Thanksgiving holiday.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people on the road. So if you are out in your RV somewhere, be careful driving back to where you're going because it would be different if everybody was patient and drove normal. But especially when you're in a big RV, people don't realize, all the safety concerns with stopping and blind spots and all that. So just be careful driving because it'll be hectic out there.
Yeah, and I swear I see more people, Sean, towing more than they should be than ever before. And stopping is always an issue when it comes to that too. Yeah, AAA I think was that put out that number of that 80 million, and I was surprised by the number. It said 50 miles or more. So are they not counting people that kind of live in the same town? Like if you go to visit your son or your sons for Thanksgiving, you guys are under that 50 miles. Are you not part of that 80 million?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Wow. That's a big number for that many 80 million people to be traveling, like actual big travel plans. And that's up 1.7 million compared to last year, and it's up 2 million from 2019. So yeah, again, people must have extra change to be able to spend on travel.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially if they're flying. I guess everything goes up. I feel like we'll see a lot more people on the road and stuff like this week too, but I guess a lot of people flying.
And driving an RV isn't cheap either.
No, I get about 8 miles per gallon, so
Yeah.
it's pretty expensive. And you know that going back to that Gulch's off-road park, the people that were out there with, we'll call them toys, some of their vehicles out there. I was talking with some of them, and they were spending anywhere from $60 to $120,000 on their vehicle, that the ones that were flat towed in or put on a flatbed and brought in. It's an expensive hobby too. And on Saturday, I would say there was probably about 100 vehicles out there for the day, for that day on Saturday, of just people driving around in $60 to $120,000 vehicles. And those vehicles that were brought on a flatbed and dropped off, when they fire them up, they're loud. When they're driving, they're loud. They got big block engines in them. I was like, this thing probably gets, it's got 45-inch tires. I was like, this thing probably gets gallons per mile and not miles per gallon. Yeah. So if you guys are traveling this week, if you traveled today, or if you're traveling this weekend coming up to visit, we do hope that you travel safe. Give yourself extra time to get somewhere, because you're going to expect extra traffic. It's going to be slow travels. I'm actually traveling on Wednesday. I'm giving myself extra time to get where I need to go. I'm luckily only traveling 250 miles by RV, so it's not terrible. But yeah, and we want you all to be safe so that you can continue to listen to the episodes.
That's right. Well, I think that's it, Kenny.
Yeah, I think we covered everything that we wanted to cover, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you want to reach out to us, we would love to hear from you. Have you stayed at Gulch's off-road park? Have you rented an RV in the past? We would love to hear some of these stories. Have you stayed at Fort Wilderness Campground? If you are a big fan of the campground, what do you think about Disney building a 10-story hotel on the campground property? It's actually the hotel, just to give you an idea, it was going to be placed between Fort Wilderness Campground and the Fort Wilderness Lodge. So it will, in my opinion, disrupt your views a little bit. So yeah, if you traveled for Thanksgiving, we definitely want to hear about that as well. Did you experience, slower traffic than expected? Did you run into those 80 million people out there traveling? And what are your thoughts on California grouping RVs into this ban? Are you upset that California, maybe you're living in California, are you upset that it's going to be difficult to purchase a new motorhome while living in California? Do you like Sean's idea of maybe just traveling one state over and maybe purchasing an RV and then bringing it back? But yeah, I believe that's everything. And again, we just want to wish you guys a happy Thanksgiving. If you haven't already, hop on your favorite podcast platform, leave us a rating or a review. I know we say this every episode, but it's true. These ratings, these reviews, they help get the show ranked. It helps us reach a larger audience. It makes it easier for people to find us. And, the more the merrier.
All right, everybody. Safe travels.
Looking to get out there and stay out there? Battleborn Batteries lithium-ion batteries are here to power your RV, marine, and off-grid adventures. Designed as an easy drop-in replacement for traditional lead-acid batteries, these reliable solutions have 2 to 3 times the power, charge 5 times faster, are a fifth of the weight, and last 10 times longer. Offered in a variety of models in unique sizes and shapes, ranging from 50 amp hour to a robust 270 amp hour, and backed by a 10-year warranty. Battleborn batteries are built to fit your needs and power your experiences. On the road, on the water, and off the grid, reliable power is here. Check them out at battlebornbatteries.com.